lifeline of the nation. Railways in India have been a great integrating force for more than 160 years. Besides, the railways have contributed immensely in bringing about transformation in economic, political and social spheres to build the modern India. The book Odisha, The Railway Story by Dilip Kumar Samantray has elaborately captured the interesting course of railway development spreading over 3 centuries in India, along with series of interesting facts and anecdotes associated with railway in India. We are very much delighted that Honorable Governor Professor Ganesilal is with us to launch the book, and also we have eminent speakers of this occasion. Shri S.K. Srivastava, General Manager, East Coast Railway; Shri Sanjay Mukherjee, Financial Commissioner and ex-officio Secretary, Government of India; Shri Vishnu Prasad Sethi, Principal Secretary, Transport and Higher Education, Government of Odisha; Shri Manoj Kumar Misra, Secretary, I&D Electronics, Government of Odisha; and Professor Susmit Prasad Pani, Retired Director, Distance Education, Utkal University. We are very much delighted to welcome you to this seminar and book launching on Odisha, The Railway Story by Dilip Kumar Samantray, and to our great fortune, Honorable Governor of Odisha, Professor Ganesilal is with us as the chief guest of the occasion, and also we deem it a privilege to have in our midst Shri S.K. Srivastava ji, General Manager, East Coast Railways, and also Shri Sanjay Mukherjee, esteemed retired Financial Commissioner and ex-officio Secretary, Government of India; esteemed Shri Vishnu Prasad Sethi, Principal Secretary, Transport and Higher Education, Government of Odisha; Shri Manoj Kumar Misra, Secretary, Information and Technology and Electronics, Government of Odisha; and Professor Susmit Prasad Pani, esteemed Director, retired Distance Education, Utkal University; and Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray, the author of this book, to be launched very shortly. And we take the privilege to welcome you all, and we welcome our esteemed dignitaries on the dais by offering flower bouquet as a token of love and appreciation to their gracious presence. With a big round of applause, we welcome Honorable Governor of Odisha, Professor Ganesilal, and all other dignitaries on the dais by offering flower bouquet. Esteemed Shri Vishnu Prasad Sethi, Principal Secretary, Transport and Higher Education, Government of Odisha; Shri S.K. Srivastava ji, General Manager, East Coast Railways; esteemed Shri Sanjay Mukherjee, Financial Commissioner, Retired Railways and ex-officio Secretary, Government of India; Shri Manoj Kumar Misra, Secretary, Information and Technology and Electronics, Government of Odisha; Professor Susmit Prasad Pani, esteemed Director, Retired Distance Education, Utkal University; and Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray, the author of this book, Odisha, the railway story. Every auspicious occasion commences with the lighting of the ceremonial lamp, and this occasion is not an exception. I take the privilege to make an honest request to the dignitaries on the dais to kindly light the ceremonial lamp and mark the commencement of this program. We are extremely grateful to the dignitaries for lighting the ceremonial lamp and marking the commencement of this seminar and book launching ceremony. As we know, the wearer knows where the soup inches. Only the author can say how much labor has gone into the making of this book. And we are very much delighted that Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray has written a book, and this book will be very shortly launched by Honorable Governor of Odisha in the gracious presence of the dignitaries. As we know, Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray, who belongs to 1981 batch of Indian Railway Account Service, and at present he is working as the Managing Director of Anugul Shukinda Railway Limited. He has long experience of working with Indian Railways and especially has been an active contributor to the development of railway infrastructure in Odisha in recent times. He is also a great sports enthusiast and has been instrumental in the development of a couple of national level stadiums in cities like Visakhapatnam and Bhubaneswar. The book Odisha, the Railway Story is a maiden venture of Shri Samantray after nearly 3 years of efforts and collection of materials. And I would like to request Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray to kindly present the welcome address in this seminar and book launching ceremony.
थैंक यू श्री रथ आपण मानक समस्त को मोर स्वागत नमस्कार. ऑनरेबल गवर्नर ऑफ ओडिशा प्रोफेसर गणेशी लाल, जनरल मैनेजर ऑफ ईस्ट कोस्ट रेलवे श्री एस.के. श्रीवास्तव, प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी हायर एजुकेशन ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड कम्युनिकेशन श्री विष्णुपद सेधी, श्री संजय मुखर्जी और एसटीम रिटायर्ड फाइनेंशियल कमिश्नर रेलवे एंड एक्स ऑफिशियो सेक्रेटरी टू गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया श्री मनोज कुमार मिश्र, सेक्रेटरी आईटी एंड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स गवर्नमेंट ऑफ ओडिशा, and the keynote speaker of this occasion, Professor S.P. Pani. Amidst the crowd, we have few stalwart and dignitaries present. Sri Avasar Behavior, retired Principal Secretary, Government of India, Sri H.K. Pani, retired General Manager, South Central Railway, Sri Siddhant Das, Sri Arup Patnaik, and all the dignitaries, also our Information Commissioner, Shri Dilip Kumar, all my friends, guests present here. Here is my privilege to give the welcome address on this occasion. I welcome Honorable Governor of Odisha, Professor Ganeshi Lal. Sir, your august presence on the occasion has enhanced the dignity and value of the event. I will, sir, welcome all the dignitaries seated on the dais on this occasion and welcome all of you. Throughout my service career in railway, spanning over more than 3 decades, the subject of Indian Railway has aroused deep interest and curiosity with me. For last over a decade, I have been directly associated with the rail infrastructure activities of Odisha, whether working in project wing of East Coast Railway or in the present capacity as the Managing Director of Angul Sukinda, important broad gauge railway lines. Actually, during the course of my association with railway and association with railway, the state of Odisha, I found there is no comprehensive history or record on the development of railway as far as Odisha is concerned. So that made me curious to write a book. I had written an article, and here one of the dignitary present, Sri Sanjay Mukherjee, our retired Financial Commissioner, suggested that I should develop it into a proper book form. And when I shared that idea with Sri Manoj Mishra, he also encouraged that it will be a good gift from my side to the state of Odisha, because there is no comprehensive book as far as railway development and the development of Odisha in tandem to be viewed. Incidentally, this idea came not only for Odisha. This is a book. It is a typical for entire Indian Railway. Nowhere, no book has been written on any state relating to railway development and the development of that state. So that way, this is the uniqueness of this book. For writing a book like this, I have, this is incidentally a maiden venture on my part. I have spent almost 3.5 years referring to various books, journals, magazines. Old timers, old friends will be remembering that there was a newspaper called Utkala Deepika Sambalpur Hiteshi. So when I started writing the book, I have gone back to 1866, 1870s of the Utkala Deepika and Sambalpur Hiteshi to assess the socio-economical condition of those days and how railway came there. So that kind of investigation I have made while preparing this book. In preparing this book, besides referring books, I have been benefited by some important persons. One or two I would like to mention. Here is a boy from Pallakamandi, Sri Vishnu Mohan Adhikari. This boy is electronic engineer. I was amazed to find out that he has got records of 30s, 40s, 1930s, 1940s of Pallakamandi railways, and he shared many of the valuable documents that has helped me. Similarly, so many other people have helped me in developing this history book on Indian railways. I knew the limitation of an author while bringing, if you are posting a picture in your book, it has to be either authentic one, your own source, or you have to give credit to some person who has given consent to you. For in these efforts, I had to bring photograph from the Kashmir Valley Bridge, that Kashmir River, Chenab River photograph. I had to arrange physically, that which is taller than Eiffel Towers. Similarly, lot of rare photographs have been collected in that. I got a photograph from a friend, unknown friend, John Ticknor, who is in London. He shared a photograph of Pallakamandi Railway that has also figured in these photographs, in this book. The first two chapter of the book is on Indian Railway. It narrates how the Britishers had great doubt in 1840s if railway could thrive in Indian geoclimatic conditions, and even some considered Indians as not fit for rail travel. However, in consideration of their trade and commerce interests, especially to export the much sought after cotton from India to the textile mills in Lancashire, and subsequently on military requirement, they finally brought railway to India. And on 16th of April 1853, the first passenger train from Boribandar, Mumbai to Thane made its maiden journey on Indian soil. That event was very eventful because that was symbolic of the scale of transformation that was to occur in economic, political and social sphere leading to building a modern India. This book brings out problems and challenges faced by the British engineer in construction of railway in India. On the one hand, they had to negotiate with the typical technical problem associated, in particular with the task of building bridges over the big rivers from Indus and Ganges to Narmada. On the other hand, they had plenty of socio-cultural problem to deal with. If the British engineers were wanting that the workers to come in time at 6 o'clock, Indian workers, they were insisting on implementation or reverence to their custom, their religious belief. So with only handful of 500 British engineers, imagine those days without modern technology, Indian railways of thousands miles have been constructed. Hats up to British engineer and hats up to those workers who have toiled day and night to build Indian railway system on the Indian soil. The focus of the book, however, is Odisha and the development of railway in the state over the course of time. Historically speaking, before the advent of railway, during the Maratha and early British period, Odisha had awful communication conditions. The Rajas of Odisha, according to one British commentator, A.J. Mills, were afraid of opening roads as they wanted impenetrable jungles around their residence. Few trunk roads constructed by Mughals were in dilapidated condition. Even the Britishers in early part of their rule were not interested in developing modern roads in Odisha. The prevailing communication system was thoroughly exposed during the Great Famine of 1866, when the relief material could not be transported to affected area and nearly one-third of the population of Odisha got perished. Post-famine, demand for construction of railway line in Odisha was raised by leaders like great Madhusudan Das. Interestingly, there was a gentleman called Raja Vaikuntanath De, an influential Jamindar. Under his leadership, a Balesar committee was constituted in 1881, and they demanded from Raniganj to Puri a railway line to be constructed. Imagine, in 1881, they had raised 3.5 lakh rupees for construction of line. But unfortunately, the British establishment, including the then Commissioner of Cuttack, T. Revensa, they were not in favor of railway. They wanted canals, they wanted irrigations. So the railway line could not be taken up in Odisha, even though most of the tragedy of 1866 was because of the poor communication networks. Anyhow, finally, those days British, finally in 1891, when Nagpur to Howrah line was constructed and rail line first came to Jharsuguda. It is an information, this has been incorporated in the book. The general impression is that rail line has come to Cuttack Khurda end. No, it is not Cuttack Khurda end, it is Jharsuguda. That was the first railway line and that was the first station in Odisha. In 1891, this Howrah-Bombay section was opened, Nagpur-Howrah section was opened. Finally, Odisha came into the railway map through Jharsuguda in 1891 when the BNR got the Howrah-Nagpur railway line. Similarly, in late 1890s, it was in late 1980s, that was in 1891, it is in the second part of 90s that Vijayawada to Howrah was completed and rail line came to Cuttack and Puri. The introduction of railway line in Odisha made a significant impact on the socio-economic life of the people. But to start with, very interesting, but to start with, the people of Odisha got mortally scared in seeing a moving steam apparatus on rail. The book narrates an interesting anecdote as to how some villager in Rambha area, seeing the hissing, puffing and whistling of a steam engine, mistook it to be a fire-spitting demon, Brahma Rakshasa, and ran away to a nearby temple asking the shelter of goddess Kali to save them from that demon. The book also brings out the role of two princely state railways of Parlakhemundi and Mayurbhanj along with BNR. They played very historic role in promoting and facilitating the movement, separate Odisha movement. Because of the railway, the movement was possible of the leaders. Especially, this book also talks about the full circle of a historical incidents. In 1890s, East Coast Railway was formed and the Bijawada to Cuttack line was taken up, and later on it was disbanded. After 100 years, in 1996, the history has made a full circle and new East Coast Railway headquarters at Bhubaneswar has got incorporated. So it is another interesting thing about the history part of the railway in Odisha. This book throws light on the progress of different railway projects and projects in pipeline to make Odisha economically and industrially one of the most advanced states in the country. The last chapter of the book is concerning issues and challenges in the execution of a railway project. This is my own direct experience I have narrated in the last chapter. What are the challenges we are facing in executing projects? Land acquisition problem, law and order problem, judiciary problem, stay order. These are actually very interesting aspect into appreciating the difficulties of execution of a railway project. I hope this book will be liked and appreciated by many people, and it will find a place as a referral literature in time to come. Since I be slightly selfish because I have put so much hard work, since our higher education principal secretary is there, I may kindly suggest him if this book can be a referral book in all college library for the younger generation, because for posterity such kind of records should be there so that younger generation know about the railway development, Odisha development, how that has taken place. With this, I once again welcome all of you to this August occasion. Thank you very much.
We congratulate Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray on his maiden adventure in bringing out this book, and with a deep sense of gratitude and indebtedness, he has dedicated his creative impulse to Indian Railways, the organization where he is working. And we are very much delighted that Sri Sanjay Mukherjee is with us. He is the former Financial Commissioner, Railways and ex-officio Secretary to Government of India. Besides his great reputation as an able and competent administrator of repute, he is a passionate admirer of railway heritage and its legacy. He was the head of the apex body of Indian Railways and Heritage, and he has few books on railways to his credit, like Darjeeling Train and Howrah Station, which has been highly acclaimed by the readers. And I take the privilege to request esteemed Sri Sanjay Mukherjee ji to kindly address the congregation.
Your Excellency, Sir, distinguished dignitaries on the dais, and the wonderful August gathering of this evening. It is indeed an honor for me to be invited to this launch ceremony of this wonderful book. In fact, working with Dilip for the last 2 years or so on this book, I have learned more about the history of Odisha in all its aspects than what I learned when I worked here. I am really grateful to you, Dilip, for sharing this opportunity. Mr. Samantray is known for many qualities. You have heard, not only is a great railwayman, a passionate railwayman, he is a devoted to his state and country. He is a sportsman and a sports administrator of repute. But really, even after knowing him for the last 35 years, I never knew the amount of passion and the amount of ability he has in digging out research work and then translating that into a very intelligible and interesting kind of a book. You see, this book is, I feel, not only for a particular segment of society or scholarship. This book is for history lovers. This book is for rail enthusiasts. This book is for Indian economists. This book is for policy framers of the country and the state. This book is for the scholars and most of all for students of infrastructure studies. You see, I am a railwayman. I've worked in the railways for 38 years and still continue to love railways. We've always been told railway is the lifeline of the nation. But when we talk about the lifeline, why do we forget the states? Why do we forget the provinces, the people, the backwards, the advanced, the economy, the industry? We can come to think about the expansion of the web. In the railway board, when I have worked, I have found people, our public representatives, craving for railway lines in their area because they wanted development. But therefore, I think, and I have seen, being part of the planning process in the railway board, that Odisha is one state which moved forward much faster than any other state in India post-independence for development of railway, because they thought railway of their own. And this is where the success of this book comes, because railway has three stakeholders major. One is the central government, one is the state government, and the third is our customers. And this particular book outlines how, after our independence, Odisha moved forward to garner the ecosystem of the railways for its own development. It is true that the true potential of Odisha was suppressed during the British Raj. The temples of modern India, steel plants, ports, coal mines came once India got independent, and the state as well as the country was led by our great leaders. It was in these enterprises we needed a link, and this link was obviously the railways. The vast mineral wealth of Odisha became the harbinger of prosperity and mobility of the people who were living in landlocked regions. This book is the record of this phenomenal metamorphosis of this state. When the central and state governments, aided by the railway fraternity, worked hand in hand in the true spirit of cooperative federalism. So cooperative federalism is not of today. Until and unless the state and the center and the industry come together, this spellbinding kind of activity, the spend binding kind of economic activity could not have taken place. Yet, this book, I feel, is not merely a book of history, as I have said earlier. The last chapter is most intriguing. Dilip mentioned about the last chapter. It is very, very informative. It is narrated by the first-hand experience. I see a lot of young people here, and I will request these youngsters to read this case study of how to build infrastructure. What are the pitfalls in our country? Democracy has a lot of checks and balances, and these checks and balances sometimes appear to hinder development. Yet, these checks and balances also give a holistic and a sustainable development. This is what Dilip has written in the last chapter. It is really a ready reckoner which explains the various stages through which a major infrastructure goes through. As he said, Odisha railways have undertaken a long journey, spread over a century. From the original East Coast Railway, which started operations in the last of the 19th century, the travelogue traverses through the iconic Bengal-Nagpur Railway, the Royal Railways of Odisha, Eastern Railway, Southeastern Railway, and came down with a full circle to today's East Coast Railway. In the 21st century, the railway family continues to work hard in partnership with the state for a glorious tomorrow. I am particularly grateful to have been part of the initial team of railways which started off East Coast Railway. Today, East Coast Railway is the most prosperous zonal railway of India, and I think everybody should give a hand to the strength of the state and the railway organization which has brought about this change. I feel blessed for having been given the opportunity to be part of Dilip Samantray's team. Thank you very much, Dilip. May this book be a guideline to everybody who reads it. May Dilip take out another book which talks about the future. Thank you for your patience. Jai Hind.
We are thankful to Sri Sanjay Mukherjee, former Financial Commissioner, Railways, for his kind presence and for his scholarly address. And as you know, this is not just a book launching ceremony, rather it is a seminar on Odisha, the railway story. And we are very much delighted to have Professor Sushmit Prasad Pani, who will be presenting the keynote address. As you know, he was the Professor of History at Utkal University, and besides he was the Director, Distance and Continuing Education, Utkal University. And at present he is Executive Member, Odisha State Higher Education Council. To his credit, he has produced innumerable scholars who holds PhD and DLit degree, and besides most of his writings have been placed in different journals of national and international repute. As a great scholar of history, as a great professor of history, he will be presenting the keynote address. So with a big round of applause, we welcome Professor Sushmit Prasad Pani.
Thank you, Dr. Rath, for the kind words. Dear Shri Samantray, dignitaries on the dais, His Excellency the Governor of Odisha, and equal number of dignitaries on the other side. I have gone through the book. I had the privilege of going through the book in detail before it got published. You know that the university teachers' mental watch is set for 55 minutes. That is what a class consists of. So it is really challenging for me to speak about in 8 minutes what I feel about the book. I will only say what I feel about the book. I will not get into detailed analysis. I will begin with one of the interesting incidents of history. Mahatma Gandhi used to criticize railway in very harsh terms. And once an American lady journalist asked him, while you are so critical of the railways, why do you travel in third class whenever opportunity comes? Gandhi's immediate reply was that, do you think that I am a fool? I am not a fool. Do you expect me to travel by a bullock cart once the train has come? You don't expect me to move in a bullock cart once the train has come. But that does not prevent me from criticizing it. No, Mahatma Gandhi's this classic reply has two sides of it. The most important side of it was that Gandhi was not opposed to technology per se. Gandhi did not oppose the new technology which is coming up in transport, and he was ever ready to utilize it to the fullest extent for his purpose. So he was not a fool. Now the opposition to railways were many. There were many. Gandhi himself outlined his opposition. Some of them are still relevant. I will give you one or two examples. He said the extension of railway line is an extension of public nuisance or laboratory. People will release themselves sitting on the railway tracks because just it is little height and we have not built washrooms in our homes, in our culture it is not there. So Gandhi gives both the reply. He criticizes it and he simultaneously gives the reply also, what is to be done. Now there is a very interesting letter which is there in public domain for last 10 years, which Mr. Samantray has given the letter. How the letter is undated and all that, it is believed that after the railway introduced in third class washrooms, the letter was supposedly written after it. We do not know the exact date, but nevertheless it is a great example of how a single letter takes its bureaucratic route for years together, reaches the British Parliament and the Privy Council and all that, and finally translates into introduction of washrooms in railways even in third class. That is what is very interesting. He has given it. Now that is the most important part, is the political part, social part. Even in Odisha, whenever little railways were introduced, even in Parla community to which I belong, there was a very strong demand that the Brahmins should have separate seating arrangement. And it has played an immense role, railway has played an immense role in breaking down the caste system. Because whatever be the pressure, we have to give hats off to the British administrators, railway administrators. They did not give in to providing any special arrangement for caste segregation, which was a very strong demand in those days, that Brahmins should have separate compartments, Kayasthas and Brahmins, the higher caste people, should travel differently and all that. To the fortune of India, I am saying fortune consciously, the famine also came along with the railways. And famine forced people to move from one place to other place. And famine and railway together did what many a time we compare Bollywood has done to spread of Hindi. So similarly, there is a lot of social impact of the railways even in Odisha, which Mr. Samantray has hinted at several places, but he has possibly neither the training or nor the time or nor the inclination to include impact of railways, impact of railway on Odisha. Another thing which he has taken very interestingly, he has tried to consciously, to my understanding, refrain from a parochial approach to the question of railway development in Odisha. It's a book from inside. It is not a book from a professional historian. It is not a book from a socialist, social scientist. It is not a book from an engineer. His background is political science. Even though he is equipped for it, he has not taken that debate to a great height. purposely, to my understanding. Now, Mr. Mukherjee explained it in a very nutshell that post-independence it is very difficult to hold the argument that Odisha has been continuously neglected. It's very difficult. When you look into the facts and figures, it is very difficult to compare the pre-independence and post-independence figures and to say that it has been neglected. Possibly, Odisha did not have much political representation in the Ministry of Railway, excepting Mr. Kanulanka, who was a Minister of State for few years. There has never been a cabinet minister from Odisha or a Minister of State from Railway. For that matter, since 67 and all that, Odisha has remained in the opposition camp over whoever was the government at the center, and as such had no political importance, the kind of importance which other states had, like Bihar and West Bengal. There is one more argument. The argument is that railway has come and has succeeded in enabling the government to exploit the mining situation. Mining resources are being exploited to a great extent. Sometimes social scientists question, are you leaving enough mines for our grandchildren, great-grandchildren and their great-grandchildren? Or is the present trying to consume whatever is possible, and should we allow the railway? Is railway doing a great work in enabling the successive governments to exploit the mining resources for money? In fact, that is the reason in the pre-independence period, India did not exploit so much of mining resources. British government did not exploit the mining resources for various reasons. The major component was this cotton boom, 1866, American War of Independence, American Civil War, and cotton boom in the world, and exploitation of cotton from India, and the suicide from Vidarbha and all that. This has been very well researched by Dharma Kumari. She has pioneered the Cambridge Economic History of India, and there are many others like British historians who have taken up this question great length. The economic debate has not been fully exploited. What is the greatest advantage of this book? The greatest advantage of this book is that, first of all, very little was known about Parlakhamdi and Mayurvansh, and still very little is known as between Balasore and Nilagiri. This is a book which fills that gap in Odisha history. It fills that gap. And for the first time, we find a general description of these things. And previously, it was not available. People have written extensively on Indian perspective, but there is nothing much written on Odisha perspective. Mr. Samantray has done a great job in providing a Odisha perspective. But as I said, this is a view from within railway. One more part which has been completely neglected for various reasons. Today history writing has changed and things have moved little away, and people would like to, ordinary readers like us, would like to read the technical aspects of it, because things are from history of science and technology has become very important. It has been now introduced at the postgraduate level, science and history of science and technology, particularly in India. And when we try to look at what was the scientific development, what was the railway story, how technology changed, it is still changing, and we want from an engineer possibly, from the railway, who can write it in simple English for ordinary mortals like us. What is the technical change that has come over the years and how it can be explained to humanities and social science students right inside the classroom? That is a very important aspect. I hope someday some railway engineer will provide us that kind of a simplistic account, and it is very important that we have that account. Last but not the least, the book is more important not for the history part, first part and all that. It is much more important for the contemporary development which Mr. Samantray himself has participated. Even though I have been living in Bhubaneswar for last 50 years, more than 50 years, and I come across newspapers, this, that, and know how certain bureaucrats have played a pioneering role, but he has brought it out very succinctly. I must congratulate Mr. Manoj Mishra, because even though he has taken his name only once or twice, Mr. Samantray has brought it out how bureaucrats, the then Chief Secretary Mr. Vijay Patnaik, who was my teacher in BJP College in political science, how they have played a role and what role the politicians have played, though politician part has not come out so strongly, but how can a bureaucrat make a difference, that has come out very nicely. And sometimes these things never come to the public domain. We know more about Revenue Act, we know about imprint of Indian ink, the British ICS officers, what they did and all that, but we do not know much about contemporary officers or officers who have pioneered development, particularly from the railway or from the Indian Administrative Service. That has also come out very nicely, and it would not have come down to the textbook level, to the classroom people who, like me, who teach history of railway. I must also confess that my interest in railway started when my PhD D.Litt scholar, Mr. Ganeshwar Naik, who heads the history department at FM College now, when he started work. I was surprised that Mr. Samantray has read everything, contemporary articles, what the young scholars of history are doing about railway. He has come across all of them, he has catalogued well, and that is a great thing. That's a great thing, because he has read everything now available relating to our period. I think my time is up, and then Mr. Bisoi is here, who has been analyzing Odisha economy. Mr. Kanungo is here, who have been analyzing Odisha economy for years together for academicians like us. I hope they will go through this book and provide much more. One thing I must say, that this debate has may not have great relevance for the students. We must take it, as Mr. Samantray has said. I promise that we will take it at least in Utkal University, my alma mater, that when we will invite you to interact with students. Yesterday Mr. Bal was speaking, who is from Indian Revenue Services, on his book on the Gajapati, the king without a kingdom, and it was hotly debated in the PG Council seminar hall of the Utkal University, and by the students, and the author was present. I hope Mr. Samantray interacts with the postgraduate students to begin with and talks about railway, its history, and the history of Odishan railway. I hope Mr. Samantray will continue with his passion for history and will write a more comprehensive picture, and particularly for the contemporary time, because if he misses out on the contemporary development of last 20-30 years, they may not filter into textbooks ever, because this kind of rich experience from inside is very important for people like us who look at it from outside. Thank you very much.
We are extremely grateful to Professor Susmit Prasad Pani for his keynote address that gave a comprehensive idea on the book, and we are very much elated with the gracious presence of Sri Manoj Kumar Mishra, Secretary Information Technology and Electronics. As we know, he is the man behind bringing a revolution in the usage of IT technology in almost all spheres of government services, especially concerning people at large. Today, Odisha is considered to be a frontline state in the country in harnessing the benefits of information technology for the people. Sri Mishra is also the Commissioner Rail Coordination in Government of Odisha and has been instrumental in ensuring the state government support to railways in the execution of different railways lines project in Odisha. May I request you, sir, to kindly address the congregation.
His Excellency, Honorable Governor Sir, dignitaries and my senior officers on the dais, and I see a lot of senior officers of the dais, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the print and electronic media. I was wondering, sitting there, what am I doing here on the dais? I think neither I have the depth or the breadth of the knowledge to speak about railways and the state, as I see in many of you who are far more erudite, far more knowledgeable and experienced to actually deliver a better speech. And following right after the keynote address, which was provoking and thought-provoking both at the same time, is slightly difficult, but I will keep myself very short. And I think I am here because I represent both railways and the state. taking that opportunity, I will speak a little bit about the state, because about railways, lot has been said, lot we know, and lot has been written in the book. I heard Professor Pani talking about the Britishers' legacy in terms of breaking the caste barriers, etc. I think those are unintended consequences of British rule. Railways did not happen or did not come to India for any positive motive by Britishers. It came to India because they wanted to amalgamate resources, take out resources from one place to another. My first posting in railways was as area manager Talcher. That line was made in 1918. We didn't have a line from Bhubaneswar to Sambalpur till the time of 1997. So while we give credit to Britishers for bringing technology, bringing railways, but the purpose behind bringing railways is entirely different, and it had nothing to do with passenger services at all. We have spent almost 75 years post-colonial era, and yet we have the vestiges of the colonial era in terms of how we operate. Railways is a central government subject in the constitution. While we may agree, disagree about the type of development which has happened in the railway sector in different states, I, as an individual, and it's my personal opinion, I will not be able to give statistics straight away in a 5-minute speech, but I think the development in railways is far lower than the state deserves. Primarily because the railways earns maximum from the state, and it is not because of the government or people, it is because of mineral wealth. We are the largest deposits of coal, manganese ore, bauxite, you name. Top 5 major minerals are in Odisha in the entire country. We, in terms of mineral wealth, compare to a country like Australia, the state of Odisha compares like that. So therefore, you invest in railways in the state, the railways will only handsomely earn. That has been proven time and again, but yet the statistics say that the rail density in the state is about 17 per 1,000 square kilometers. Whereas you go to Bengal, it is about 40, if you go to Bihar, it is about 28, you go to Chhattisgarh, it is still higher than that of Odisha. And in Odisha, you can see the railway map that most of the railways was on the periphery of the boundaries, primarily to take out material. It is a part of, we fail on the line between Madras and Calcutta of the earlier names, otherwise Chennai and Kolkata. We happen to be there geographically between Nagpur or Mumbai, Nagpur and Calcutta. That is why they came. Nobody came to Odisha and did some favor by putting lines here in the state. Where does that leave us today? We can lament about the past, but what are we doing now? I joined in the state in December 2015. It's almost about 6.5 years. And I am delighted to work in the state primarily because my first love is railways. I have worked for 15 years in railways. And any proposal that I have brought in to the notice of the government doesn't even discuss. They say yes. It's the only state which said yes to ensure one of those projects which is headed by the esteemed author, Angul Sukinda line, as with Paradip Haridapur line, which were not financially getting viable as a SPV. And state government came, picked up the equity and made it work. For 40 years we thought about having a cross-sectional railway line instead of only the peripheral line, which was the Khordha-Balangir line. And that took about 40 years of thinking, planning, talking. But it actually started happening only when the state came forward and said that we will give the land between Daspalla to Balangir free of cost, and not only that, we will give 50% of the construction cost. The same method we have extended to Jaipur, Malkangiri, Jaipur, Navranpur. In 2015, we had 7 districts out of 30 untouched by railway. It was not there in the map. There are some districts which are just about touched, so I will not count them, but 7 districts had absolutely no rail presence, not a single sleeper. And in the last 5 years, we have connected 2. In 2019, we connected Nayagarh, which is just 60 kilometers from here, we didn't have a railway line. And Kendrapada, such a large district in the coastal areas, never had a railway line. We have NV concept projects where we are contributing financially to ensure that railway line will go to Navrangpur and Malkangiri. We are contributing in terms of taking railway line to Baud, which is a district which falls in the Khordha-Balangir line, and very soon we will also have line connecting to Devgarh through Talcher-Bimlagarh. So we plan that in the next 4 to 5 years, every district of Odisha will have railway lines. Not only this much, that there are huge number of railway projects are undertaken in the state currently, because the government in the center also realizes the potential of harvesting and optimally utilizing the resources that are available. It's not exploitation of minerals, it's utilization of the mineral wealth for the benefit of the mankind. So for that, a lot of emphasis is now on Indian Railways for the state of Odisha, and for that a lot of proposals have been mooted by the state. In fact, we went ahead and talked in terms of funding the entire world-class railway station in Bhubaneswar. We have talked about taking a new line from Puri to Konark to unleash the tourism potential in the state. So there are many lines. For example, from Bargarh to Nuapada, that could be a line which can change the entire face of the Western Odisha. So these are the areas which we are looking at, and we are not only doing that, we are giving the entire registration cost free for entire government land for 18 railway projects. We have gone 2 steps to meet railways, and we know that railway projects, there are so many railway projects which have been sanctioned in the past which are not worth it. That is why railways have one hand tied behind their back. And to release that, the state government is taking 2 more steps. And we will ensure that the railway progress in the state, what I have seen in my time in the state in the last 5 years, will continue for the next 10. While railways and Odisha story will continue like this, I must thank Samantray sir, DK Samantray sir. He is senior to me in profession, age, but I think by heart he's younger to all of us. I loved being here primarily because I have always seen through his life and in his career that he has not been primarily focused only on the job at hand. He is an Indian Railway Account Services person, so he should be known more for accounts and financial advisories. But for the entire career that I have been with him in the railways, I have seen him doing wonderful work in sports. The Indian Railway Sports Stadium that we have in East Coast Railway, much of its credit goes to him. And what he has done in Visakhapatnam is people know. One small thing I just wanted to talk about him, I would like to share with your permission, sir, is that he is not a regular finance guy. We know finance guys can be really hard to crack. So they will give you rule books, they will say this is not permissible and all of that. When I talked about 40 years we are thinking about in Khordha-Balangir line, 19 kilometers of railway land was acquired from Balangir end when he was FNCO, and when the project was not sanctioned. I think he got a slap on his hand by the railways later on, but that contribution to expedite that today we have 16 kilometers of line commissioned and trains are running there owes to the fact that daringly he signed that file. We need people like him in railways, we need people like him in the state. We must understand that development stops where road stop, development stops where railway line stops. So may this book give us a perspective about the importance of railways, and may all of us be absolutely aggressive in terms of promoting railways and a cooperation between the centre and the state in this particular area. My last and humblest request to all of us, which includes me, also that let's buy this book. Is hardly 700, I think it's available at a discount at 600 rupees. Let's buy this book and make it worthwhile. Not expect a autographed free book from me. Thank you so much for having me and having patience to listen to me.
The ideas and the thoughts shared by esteemed Shri Manoj Kumar Mishra find a birth in this book, Odisha, the Railway Story, and we are extremely thankful to Shri Manoj Kumar Mishra, Secretary Information Technology and Electronics, Government of Odisha, for sharing his ideas. Among the guest speakers of the occasion, we have Shri Vishnupada Sethi Sir, esteemed Principal Secretary, Department of Higher Education, Commerce and Transport, Government of Odisha. As we know, he is a remarkable personality, and in the bureaucratic career, he stands different from his contemporaries with his approach to life and for his literary contributions as well. The immortal lines of Santha Kavi, the saint poet, Bhima Bhoi, Praninka Arata Dukha Apramita Dekhu Dekhu Keba Sahu, Mojibana Pache Narke Padithau Jagata Uddhar Heu. These lines have molded his vision, and always he holds these lines dear to his heart. As you know, a couple of days back, his translated poems from an English anthology was released in the form of a music video wherein the legend singer Ghazal Maestro Hariharanji and esteemed Suresh Wadekarji have rendered their voices, and they have rendered their voices in the songs of esteemed Sri Vishnupada Sethi sir. We are very much proud of him, not just as a bureaucrat, but as a great literary figure, but as a great human being in the contemporary time. We take the privilege to request you, sir, to kindly address the congregation.
Honorable Governor Odisha, Professor Ganeshilal, Shri S.K. Srivastava, General Manager, South Eastern Railway, Shri Sanjay Srivastava ji, Shri Sasmit Mani, my colleague Manoj Mishra, and the star attraction of the evening, Shri Dilip Samantray, and I see a lot of dignitary of the dais and distinguished guests. Good evening to all of you. As has been told, Shri Dilip Samantray, his book Odisha, the railway story, is being released in the hands of Honorable Governor Odisha. We see every day some book is released by somebody. By why Governor Odisha releasing this book? It is because the book is very important, and the book is a significant contribution to mankind. I think this occasion is very much befitting that efforts of Shri Dilip Samantray to make railway story an interesting one, a fascinating one, has really shown some result. Writing about railways is not an easy subject. As you know very well, the railway is very fascinating. It has got a history of 169 years. And in India, we have got 68,000 kilometers of rail lines, and 45,000 kilometers of rail lines are electrified as of now. And we are the fourth largest country in terms of the railway line, the first being USA, China and Russia. There are 4 UNESCO heritage sites which are owned by Indian Railways. Gorakhpur Railway has the longest platform in the world, that is about 1366 meters. Railway employs 1.4 million people. And there are many other interesting facts. And you know that it is not easy to steal a fan or a bulb from the train, because it won't work at your home, because the electricity is provided at 110 volts. Similarly, as an engineer, it was very interesting for me to know that the resonance frequency of suspension system of railway is designed at 1.2 hertz, that is 72 BPM, so that you can sleep nicely as the train moves. So, for many angles, for many subjects, I think railway is a fascinating topic. And as Mr. Samantray was saying, that he had toiled for about 3 years to make this monumental piece. And I am sure, as he has been requesting me that this book should be prescribed, I am sure we will do whatever best and Honorable Governor heads all the universities. I am sure I will have his blessings to promote his book. I think it is worth being I think it can be included as a subject matter in many of the universities. As was told by Manoj, when railways were being planned in India, if you go through this book, you would understand that the policymaker had lot of dilemma. I think this book will also be an interesting study on policy making. That the first railways rolled on, I think in 1825 in London. And when British people were conceptualizing railway, whether it should work in India, it should not, I think they were also confronting with lot of realities in India. The terrains were difficult. The caste system was another thing that was coming to their mind, whether people will use railways because it will break the caste system. So there is a lot of dilemma. And some of the nationalist leaders like Ramesh Chandra Datta, Sir Arthur Cotton, they opposed railway very vehemently. They said, in a country like India, the first task should be the building of the roads and canals. You know very well the contribution of British to India, that because of their policy which suited British Empire, 70 million of people died because of famine during the British Raj. So when the nationalists opposed railways, they were thinking that, as always it has been, the resources are a scarce commodity. It is better that the money is spent on irrigation, waterways and the road network than to invest in railway. But as Manoj was saying, that British had its own interest. They wanted to transport cotton for the mills in Lancashire. They wanted to also transport wheat for export, and they also wanted to transport the finished goods from London so that they will capture the market. And some of the very progressive Indians, they also invested in railways. The initial pace was very slow. The great moment of railway came with the joining of Lord Dalhousie in India. He has very nicely written about the minutes by Dalhousie, and this is the central document in the Indian Railways history. I think this is a great document which is still followed by the railway authorities. And when Manoj was saying that Odisha did not get its right share in railways, in the Dalhousie minutes, when they were planning the big projects, the Calcutta-Madras line did not appear. So obviously you had Jharsuguda, which was a part of your Nagpur-Calcutta connectivity, but this Madras-Calcutta rail line was not there. Whatever may be the issue, the railway started with the sovereign guarantee of return of 5%, and subsequent development led to certain policy decision by the British. They came after the Great War of Independence, when British government took over the administration, they also thought it is very important that railway is developed by them, so they can take care of any rebellion by rushing their soldier from one part to another. Imagine a British Empire from Afghanistan on one side, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, such a vast territory. I think with this railway network, they were able to control the entire administration in the country, and for expansion of the British Empire and the territory, I think railway provided a great network, and for which the Raj was nurtured and also it grew. 1858, then the First World War 1914, then the Second World War 1939. They saw much renewed emphasis on the development of railways, and as was told that the impact of this expansion of railway network was also failed when they controlled famine situation in one part of the country. Similarly, the markets got developed, the farmers got better remuneration, and the significant contribution was, the nationalist, the freedom struggle. I think railways' contribution to unifying the country, to promote a freedom movement across the country was possible through the railway network. I think when we look at the book historically, I think it will give very interesting issues. I think one can work on some of the issues and it can become a chapter or a PhD topic. I think Mr. Samantray has done a great job by narrating, by making you walk through a 169 years of history and also given a focus on Odisha's contribution. And he has also talked about in the later part of the book how Odisha has benefited and how Odisha government has invested in last several years in promoting railway network in Odisha, which Manoj has said, the commerce and transport which deals with the railway project. I think 60% of our budget is for our contribution to railway development in Odisha. Either we give equity support or we acquire land almost free of cost. I think the Daspalla Bolangir, the land is provided to railway free of cost. There are several other projects like maybe about 20 projects which the state contribution ranges from 25% to 100%. So I think the Odisha government is committed to the railway development. I won't take much more time, but I would say that this is a great book and it is very interesting. It has many interesting facts that is narrated as you go through it, and there will be a lot of interest in reading this book. I thank Mr. Samantray for inviting, and I am grateful to Honorable Governor for gracing this occasion, and I think it is a great honor. I think Mr. Samantray would cherish in his life that his book, it's a great document which is released by Honorable Governor. Thank you very much.
We are thankful to esteemed Sri Vishnupada Sethi, Principal Secretary, Department of Higher Education, for his kind presence and inspiring words, and the gracious presence of Sri S.K. Srivastav, General Manager, East Coast Railway, has added lustre to this program. As we know, Sri S.K. Srivastav, General Manager of East Coast Railway, is an Indian Railway Service of Electrical Engineering officer of 1986 batch. He has served as Divisional Railway Manager of South Eastern Railway, Adra Division. Sri Srivastav has checkered career in railway both as a competent engineer and an able administrator. Today he is heading the most important East Coast Railway, which is the highest freight loading zone over the Indian Railways. May I request you, sir, to kindly address the Congress.
Good evening. His Excellency, Honorable Governor of Odisha, Professor Ganeshi Lal Sir, Shri S.P. Mukherjee, former FC Railways and ex-officio, Secretary to Government of India, Professor S.P. Mani, former Director, Distant Education, Utkal University, Shri M.K. Mishra, Secretary IT and Electronics, Government of Odisha, Shri B.P. Sethi, Principal Secretary, Higher Education, Government of Odisha, Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray, Managing Director, ASRL, and distinguished guest. First of all, I would like to thank Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray for giving me the opportunity to be part of this great occasion where a book written by him, Odisha, the Railway Story, is being launched by Honorable Governor of Odisha. Shri Samantray, in his book, has narrated a story on development of Indian Railways with a special focus on rail connectivity in Odisha. Various aspects of development of Indian Railways since pre-independence era and future perspectives of Indian Railways have been comprehensively discussed in holistic manner, touching all the aspects of human life, economic and social development. He has made untiring effort of many years to collect various facts and authenticate to bring awareness of Indian Railways' rich history to the readers. Shri Samantray has also brought in his book an integrated map of Odisha connecting various zones of Indian Railways like East Coast Railway, South Eastern Railway and South East Central Railway. This is a unique map which we do not find anywhere. This map is very much useful for the people of the Odisha and the readers, and especially for the railwaymen also, to see the complete potential of the Odisha rail network, what is being done and how it has been done. Indian Railways is the lifeline of nation, and East Coast Railway plays an important role in building the nation. Railway is an important mode of transportation of freight and passenger services, and Indian Railways has been serving the country for more than 160 years, since the first train started on 16th April 1853. Since then, Indian Railways kept on expanding and growing in fulfilling the needs and aspirations of the country. The book deals with a special focus on development of rail line in Odisha, as there was inadequate means of transportation and communication facilities during the Great Famine in 1866. The state suffered a lot. Since then, there was a need and aspiration among the people of Odisha to have a rail line in Odisha. The first rail line in Odisha passed through Jharsuguda, where Howrah-Nagpur line was opened in the year 1891. The book has narrated the story of development in a beautiful and brilliant manner. The rail network in Odisha was earlier controlled by South Eastern Railway, and on 1st April 2003, East Coast Railway was formed when South Eastern Railway was trifurcated. The headquarters of East Coast Railway is at Bhubaneswar, and it has 3 divisions at Khurda Road, Sambalpur and Valtier. Khurda Road and Sambalpur divisions are in the state of Odisha. The total route kilometer of East Coast Railway is 2,818 km, and out of which 2,004 route kilometer is in the state of Odisha, which comprises nearly 71% of the network of East Coast Railway. There are 316 stations in East Coast Railway, and out of which 220 stations are in the state of Odisha. East Coast Railway has a vast railway network not only in coastal Odisha but also connecting various hinterlands of western and southern parts of Odisha. While the railway network of East Coast spreads from Bhadrak to Gajpati district in coastal Odisha, it also extends to Naupada, Balangir, Jharsuguda, Sambalpur, Bargar district in western Odisha, and Rayagada, Koraput, Kalahandi in south Odisha. East Coast Railway is operating 224 coaching services daily for movement of people from one place to other place within the state as well as to the various parts of the country. These trains include passengers, Memu, Mail Express, Duranto and Rajdhani. East Coast Railway is privileged to contribute special trains on the occasion of Rath Yatra at Puri every year by running more than 230 special trains during the festival to facilitate travelling of pilgrims from different parts of the state to visit Lord Jagannath on the holy occasion. And with the blessings of Lord Jagannath, we get the opportunity to touch the wheels to arrange turning of Rath for Baudha Yatra. In freight services, East Coast Railway remained number 1 in the originating freight loading consecutively for last 5 years in Indian Railways. The freight loading of East Coast Railway reached as high as 232 million tons in the year 2021 and 2022. Odisha is blessed with major industries like integrated steel plants, aluminium refineries, power plants, cement industries, etc. Railway, in close coordination with these industries and the state, plan necessary rail infrastructure to take care of their existing logistic requirement. Iron ore mines in Joda-Barbil area is well connected by railway network. Nayagarh, Orjanpur, Golati, Narayanpur goods sheds serve iron ore mines in this area. East Coast Railway has undertaken survey for new line directly connecting iron ore mines in this area. Direct connectivity to Gandhamardan mines is being explored. Bauxite mines at Kondigamali area is also being considered to have direct rail connectivity. East Coast Railway is taking every necessary step to ensure that rail infrastructure is being put in place with the cooperation of the state government and before the mines start production. New projects like Hardaspur Paradip new line has been commissioned under PPP mode to enhance mobility with the port. Similarly, Angul Sukinda new line under PPP mode is getting ready for commissioning to facilitate iron ore loading. East Coast Railway has 2 major and 3 minor ports in its territory. Out of these, 1 major port at Paradip and 2 minor ports at Dhamra and Gopalpur are well connected with the railways. Another port which is coming up at Astaranga is also being planned to have rail connectivity with the railways. 3rd line and 4th line are being expanded to enhance the mobility with the port. I am sure East Coast Railway, with the active cooperation of the state, will be able to complete all the works which are being executed by East Coast Railway. East Coast Railway has undertaken several new projects in the state of Odisha. Khurda Road Balangir new line, rail link of 301 km has been undertaken, out of which 105 km has been commissioned. This will connect Nayagarh, Baudh, Sonpur, part of Kandhamal district. Similarly, Talcher Vimalgarh new line of 105 km will pass through Devgarh, Sundargarh districts. Our new railway line project, Jaipur Malgangiri, Jaipur Naurangarh, has also been sanctioned, which will connect remote area of Odisha. Survey for new lines has also been initiated for Malkangiri, Bhadrachalam and Junagadh with Naurangpur. Extension of Gunpur line up to Tharuvali is also under active consideration. East Coast Railway is planning in a big way to fulfill the needs and aspirations of the people of Odisha with jointly support with the state government and the local support. East Coast Railway is planning important role in history and progress of Odisha state. The book Odisha, the railway story becomes very important and relevant in this context. This will definitely guide railway readers to understand development of Indian Railways and future plans of railways to lay new milestones for the growth of Odisha. With these words, once again I extend my sincere thanks to Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray for bringing up the facts about Indian Railways, particularly with the special focus on the state of Odisha. I wish grand success for his book Odisha, the railway story. Thank you.
We are thankful to esteemed General Manager East Coast Railway. Now the time to witness the launching of the book by Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray is ready. We would like to request esteemed Honorable Chief Guest, esteemed Governor of Odisha, Professor Ganesh Lal, to kindly release the book, to kindly launch the book Odisha, the Railway Story by Shri Dilip Samantray, in the gracious presence of the dignitaries and the dais. So the evening witnesses the launching of the book Odisha, the Railway Story by Honorable Governor of Odisha along with all the dignitaries. And this is a commendable work by Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray, and we congratulate him on his maiden adventure. Thank you, sir. And now we take the privilege to felicitate 4 personalities who are associated with this seminar and launching of this book. Sri Shamit Raj Chaudhary. I would like to request Honorable Governor of Odisha to felicitate these 4 people who are associated with this program. Sri Shamit Raj Chaudhary is a reputed cartographer and has a coffee table book titled Global Atlas, a globally circulated document to his credit. He has beautifully designed and has nicely done the map layouts of the book Odisha, the Railway History. Sri Shamit Raj Chaudhary deserves a big round of applause. Odisha, the Railway History, in its launching, we just recognize the contribution of Sri Shamit Raj Chaudhary in designing and laying out the book Odisha, the Railway History. Shri Nirakar Das. I would like to request Shri Nirakar Das, the Senior Public Relation Officer at East Coast Railway, who has extended consistent support to the author Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray at every stage of writing the book. And without his help and assistance, the book writing would not have been, successful. Shri Nirakar Das, besides being the public relation officer, is also a renowned poet from Odisha, Shri Nirakar Das. And we are very much delighted to felicitate Shri Nirakar Das, Senior Public Relation Officer of East Coast Railway and renowned poet in Odia language. Shri Vishnu Mohan Adhikari. Shri Vishnu Mohan Adhikari is from Paralakhimandi, is a passionate follower and advocate of the old legacy of the princely state of Paralakhimandi. He has supported the author by sharing invaluable inputs and rare images related to the two princely railways of Odisha, Paralakhimandi and Mayurbhanj. Shri Vishnu Mohan Adhikari, for his remarkable contribution, he is also being felicitated by our esteemed Governor. Now, we would like to invite Sri Chittaranjan Panda of Tira Taranga Printer and Publication, who took a well-known challenge to deliver a quality service in the publication of the book, especially when the author was toying with the idea of getting the same printed through a printing house from New Delhi. Sri Panda has proved that quality printing is possible in Odisha as well. Sri Chittaranjan Panda deserves commendation and a wide round of applause from Tir Taranga Printer and Publication.
Next, we have the honor of honoring Sri Mrityunjay Rath, the well-known face in Odisha circle as well as outside Odisha. Beside anchoring program, he is an important personality in any national or state level function in the state. We are very happy that we have the privilege of honoring him through our Honorable Governor.
Also, it will be a privilege to offer a kind of memento to our esteemed dignitaries on the dais. I would like to request the author to kindly present memento as a token of love and appreciation to the gracious presence of the dignitaries. And I would like to request Shri Dilip Kumar Samantray, the author, to kindly present a memento to Honorable Governor of Odisha. And this is a unique memento of the Fairy Queen, and we take the pleasure and honor of presenting a memento to the Chief Guest of the function, Professor Ganeshilal, Honorable Governor of Odisha. The memento, a model of the Fairy Queen built in 1855 by Kitson, Thomas and Helston Co. Leeds, England, is considered to be the oldest working steam locomotive in the world, and this is being presented to Honorable Governor for his benign presence and for his kind presence here in this seminar. And also I would like to request Sri Samantray, the author, to kindly present another memento to esteemed Sri S.K. Srivastava, General Manager, East Coast Railway. As a token of love and appreciation to the gracious presence, we present a memento to Sri S.K. Srivastava, esteemed Sri Sanjay Mukherjee, Financial Commissioner, retired, Railways and ex-officio Secretary, Government of India. Esteemed Professor S.P. Pani, Susmit Prasad Pani, esteemed Director, retired, Distance Education, Utkal University, Professor Susmit Prasad Pani, who presented the keynote address and spared his valuable moment with us in this seminar. And presenting a memento to Sri Vishnu Pada Sethi, esteemed Principal Secretary, Transport and Higher Education, Government of Odisha. and a memento to Shri Manoj Kumar Misra, Secretary, Information and Technology and Electronics, Government of Odisha. We are all awaiting to listen to Professor Ganesh Lal, the Gyana Vibhuti, with rapt attention.
Jagannath Swami Nayan Pathgami Bhavtu Me. The order of the star today is Dr. Dilip Kumar Samantray, the writer of the book, of course. Honorable Shri Sanjay Mukherjee, Honorable Shri Professor S.P. Paniji, Honorable Shri Manoj Kumar Mishra ji, Honorable Shri Vishnupat Sethi ji, Honorable Shri S.K. Srivastav ji, and the great audience, you see, the scientists of motion or movement, I can say, accept my congratulations, jubilations and salutations to all of you. See. मैं एक बात पढ़ रहा था, जॉर्ज बर्नार्ड शॉ ट्रेन में सफर कर रहे हैं, टिकट कलेक्टर आया, टिकट चेक कर रहा था, तो जॉर्ज बर्नार्ड शॉ के पास जैसे ही वो आने लगा, तो जॉर्ज बर्नार्ड शॉ अपनी पॉकेट्स को देख करके किधर जाना है इसे टिकट को देखने लगे। तो टिकट कलेक्टर ने कहा कि जॉर्ज आपको हम जानते हैं अच्छे से, आपको टिकट दिखाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। तो जॉर्ज बर्नार्ड शॉ ने कहा, मैं इसलिए नहीं देख रहा हूं अपनी पॉकेट्स को कि टिकट दिखाना है, पर मैं तो ये जानना चाहता हूं कि मुझे जाना किधर है। Well, as far as the journey to the trains are concerned, or Jal Prayan ho, Vayu Prayan ho, Agni Prayan ho, Gagan Prayan ho, well, that must represent the soul of the nation, you see. Any feeling, any opinion, any idea, any book, any letter, conscious or unconscious, thought, sentiment, whatever it is, you see, it must speak the language of the nation. Day before yesterday, there was a launching of the INS Vikranta. You must be very much glad to know that it was just expressing itself that I represent Bharat, the living goddess. As far as the movements are concerned, you see, the unselfish movement, uncalculating, is one of the most beautiful forms of the psychic consciousness in the world. Therefore, my motion, my movement, the lines are there are not hardly matters. I must recollect, you see, Nanak's traveling to Odisha, Adya Shankaracharya's traveling from Kerala to Kashmir, you see. I can recollect all that. But today I am proud to recollect, you see, the bus yatra, Lahore bus yatra, by the then Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I also recollect the most sentimental, emotional oration by the Honorable Prime Minister of India today on the ramparts of the Red Fort, when I was talking of the united India, Akhanda Bharat. I also recollect, you see, the Honorable Prime Minister carrying the Chinese premier to Bahubali और फिर उनको कृष्ण का मक्खन खिलाना। कोई मक्खन ऐसे ही तो नहीं खिलाया जाता, कोई ऐसे ही तो नहीं किसी को रिझाया जाता। हम नारायणी सेना भी देते हैं, शैकल्स में हमको बांधने का प्रयास भी किया जाता है, लेकिन वक्त आने पर फिर गांडीव का दर्शन भी उसको कराने में हिचकते नहीं है. Well, that is the soul of the nation. That is what I am talking of. So D.K. Samantray must be prepared to write another book, you see. And that book must be like that, you see. Who she, the philosopher of China, speaks. We have been culturally dominated by India for more than 2000 years, you see. And India's decadence to China cannot be forgotten, cannot be overlooked, cannot be ignored. इसलिए हम चाइना से बेपनाह मोहब्बत करते हैं, इसलिए मक्खन खिलाते हैं. So there must be, as far as I visualize, and every citizen of India must be visualizing like that, you see, that there should be a train to Pakistan, Taliban, Balochistan, Afghanistan, even a train to China and Myanmar. So therefore I am requesting D.K. Samantray to write another book, you see. Because a train journey is a very beautiful journey, you see. Manushya Manushya hai. That signifies the train journey. I was happy when the Honorable Professor Utkal University was speaking like that, you see. No caste, no creed, no color, no cunningness, no cleverness, no conspiracy, no corruption, no comparison, no competition, no comparison, no conclusions, no conventions, just coexistence, cooperation and collaboration. That is in the train, you see. No dominance, no authority, no rituals, no dogmas. The passengers are no other than intelligence, wisdom, charity, prudence. These are the passengers and travelers, you see, who are sitting over there in the train, you see. And the best possible, and every person who is traveling in the train is no other than the gratitude, you see. We meet for certain moments. Therefore, all the nations in the world can live together while complementing each other. Of course, preserving their fragrance, melody, sweetness, smile, silence, stillness, beauty, light, peace, radiance, splendor, love, laughter, etc. They can preserve that. But as far as the railways journeys are concerned, any journey, you see, even it is in the air or it is in the water, wherever it is, you see, the motion will invite Newton's law of motion, you see, of course, no doubt, you see. And that has no color, you see, no caste. Nothing is there, you see. Therefore, if the railway authorities deem proper, can every compartment have a painting or a picture or a thought of somebody or the other? There can be a thought of Confucius, there can be a thought of B. Newton, there can be a thought of Kushi, there can be a thought of Socrates, there can be a thought of Kanad, Aryabhatta, Bhaskara. Infinitely many. Your compartments will be fewer as compared to the names of the persons I am counting from this country to the whole of the world, you see. अभी ट्रेन पे लिखा होता है A, B, C, D, etc. Can't I write down Gopabandhu, Kaksha? Can't I write Bhima Bhai? All the dignitaries, celebrities of this my place, क्या उनके नाम हम नहीं लिख सकते? कोई थॉट अंदर लगा के उसके ऊपर उसका फोटो नहीं लगा सकते? इराविन का लिखिए, मैक्टेगर्ट का लिखिए, इराविन का, आइंस्टीन का लिखिए, सीवी रमन का लिखिए, जगदीश चंद्र बोस का लिखिए, जिसका आपको पसंद है उसका लिखिए. पर माई ट्रेन मूविंग फ्रॉम एनी कॉर्नर टू एनी अदर कॉर्नर must speak the language, the culture, the tradition, and whatever the beauty is there in my country, that must be ventilated to the every nook and corner of the world. That is what I think as far as this. So I am requesting Dr. D.K. Samantray. I have not gone through the book, you see, but I think he should make up his mind to write one more book also. You see. So as far as the journey to the train is concerned, it can help us. Any journey, you see. It may be a journey of sports, it may be a journey of cultural activities, it may be a journey of anything, you see. But these things, in the words of J. Krishnamurti, you see, any opinion, idea, thought, function, activity, consciousness or unconsciousness must be giving us the message of that equanimity but not of equality. It must give us the message of an human being, not an individual, you see. The train helps the individualism to be transformed into human being. Individual is just an entity, you see, concerning with certain उपासना पद्धति से होगा, देश से होगा, कुछ भी होगा, लेकिन ह्यूमन बीइंग is nothing else but a spark of the nationalism, which is nothing else but the religion of the mother, that is the true religion beyond the intellect, beyond the aesthetical concepts, and it is beyond the practical being of the human beings. So, as far as journey to the train is concerned, I think, well, this is a very good thing that he has written something, and he has written a very nice book which has been elaborated by all the great speakers on the dais over here. But I have not read the book, I don't know, but I was here only to learn from the speakers what is happening in Odisha as far as the railway connectivity is concerned. I don't think I can talk much, but for inviting me and giving me so beautiful a present, you say, of that almost 160 years back, that is what he was telling to me. Most precious gift he has given to me. I'll keep it in the museum of my Raj Bhavan. So nice of you. Thank you very much. Vande Utkal Janni Bharat Mata ki jai.
With deep sense of gratitude, we express our humble salutation to all the dignitaries, and we see off esteemed Governor, and also we attribute the success of this program to all of you, particularly to different dignitaries from different walks of life, esteemed officers from East Coast Railways, and also journals from both print and electronic media, and also to everyone present over here for making this evening a grand evening, a successful evening. Thank you.